Once again, please welcome Margaret Newman.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce the speakers for our next conversation on the state of design in the city. Signe Nielsen, landscape architect and president of the Public Design Commission of New York City, will be joined along with Fred Iseman, vice chair of MAS and CEO of CI Capital Partners.
It's good to be here. So Fred and I are going to discuss the topic of the state of design in the city from two different perspectives. I'll tackle the state of design in the city from the standpoint of the public works, and Fred will talk about the private realm. In terms of design, there are three commissions in the city with oversight responsibilities related to buildings. Their respective roles in effectuating good design is a function not only of their mandates, but also of the political climate and aesthetic consensus of the moment. Each have their specific jurisdictions, which sometimes overlap. Buildings and sites that comprise civic architecture are governed primarily by the Public Design Commission, formerly the Art Commission. Established in 1898, the Design Commission reviews permanent works of art, architecture, and landscape architecture on or over city-owned land. The Landmarks Preservation Commission was established in 1965 and is responsible for protecting New York City's architecturally, historically, and culturally significant buildings and sites for the purpose, among other things, of promoting civic pride and welfare of the people of the city. Their jurisdiction comprises individual buildings, whether private or public, and include districts as well as individual buildings. And lastly, the City Planning Commission, established in 1936, is responsible for planning related to orderly growth and development of the city. So with those facts behind me, I'm going to pose 4 questions, which I will answer and then Fred will address. So, how have these agencies succeeded or not in establishing a level of excellence and civic appropriateness? And what teeth do they have in enforcing those standards? When the Design Commission was first established, there was a general aesthetic consensus about the civic realm on the principles of the city beautiful. There were design standards based on symmetry, axes, and unified ensembles. Today, no such clear vision governs our view of excellence in municipal design. As a result, standards cannot be as precisely articulated. Instead, design commissioners now strive to encourage visual coherence, aesthetic richness, and appropriate complexity in public art, structures, and landscapes. For Landmarks Commission, once a building is landmarked or in a district, it evaluates how renovations or new construction through a different lens than the Design Commission. LPC considers context, history, and integrity of a building when approving such applications. Good design, therefore, is premised on a different and more visually and culturally defined set of criteria than those applied by the Design Commission. In terms of enforcement, if a project requires a permit from the Department of Buildings, then compliance with LPC or PDC is required as applicable. However, no further proof is required, nor is there any requirement for demonstrating that the design was followed. Not what I call great teeth. Second question. How does one respond to the age-old controversy wherein the values and short-term perspectives of local residents, politicians, and special interest groups may clash with opinions of the civic elite and design professionals? The Public Design Commission strives to contribute to make the city a place whose civic architecture and public spaces are more attractive because they embody the ideals of civic accountability. Where there are no clear standards, as there were during the City Beautiful era, the contemporary view is for simple, dignified, and bold design, which displays a complex and thoughtful concept, subject to a lot of interpretation. Fundamentally, commissioners today have strong individual convictions about the nature of municipal beauty as visual culture. Urban beauty is evolutionary and inherently a political process governed by fluctuating circumstances. Beauty, as we all know, is in the eyes of the beholder. So whether it's the Design Commission or Landmarks Preservation Commission, we attempt to act in the public interest, but it is a matter of endless debate. So what place should aesthetics have in defining the municipal landscape? Both PDC and LPC offer a public forum for negotiating our cultural patrimony and its relationship to public welfare and beauty in the city. From my point of view, the dialogue that takes place within the open walls of these commissions has helped make people in authority, i.e. elected officials and public servants, acknowledge that they work in the municipal sphere, which entails a responsibility to a vision of a civic community. And now my last question, which I will then turn it over to Fred. So should expectations for design quality be any different if buildings are built and financed by the public sector or the private sector? So I'll just start by saying that PDC was established to improve quality in the city as a whole by managing its built environment. Landmarks, in principle, disregards the distinction between public and private property when ruling on appropriateness of change. This agency, that is LPC, with greater authority than PDC, can evaluate appropriateness relative to context. However, their mandate is not to promote innovation in aesthetics, but rather to safeguard buildings and places that represent the city's cultural and architectural legacy. I think on that note, I'll pass it over to Fred. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to move fast, and so I'm going to just try to answer the very last question, which is, and I'm going to say it in a very simple way, which is, why is this city so ugly? And does it need to be? Because the building is full of horrible buildings, and can we do anything about that? I'm going to put up some slides very quickly, and that's the Pantheon in Rome, okay? Built by Hadrian, okay? But you'll notice that the original Pantheon was built by Agrippa, and Agrippa was the hatchet man of Augustus. And the important thing to notice is just the portico, where it says Agrippa, and the last word is, I flunked Latin 2 years in a row, but fecit, okay, which means Agrippa made this, okay? So Agrippa, who was a thug, wanted everyone to know that he built this, okay? And the one thing I want you to know from this slide is that Augustus' reputation, which was global at that time, was that he found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. And in Rome, and this is important to remember, is you were what you built. And Agrippa wanted everyone to know that I'm Agrippa, I built this, okay? So, and this is something we're lacking in New York, okay? Okay. There's no accountability, okay? Next, we have the opera in Paris, okay? Built by Napoleon III, okay? And Napoleon III built this for a lot of different reasons. There was an assassination attempt. He wanted a bigger opera. He wanted to be able to escape in case somebody tried to kill him. But the bottom line is that he put his name all over this place. And when he was in prison in 1842, he wrote a letter saying, I want to be the Augustus of Paris. I want to do to Paris. And you know, Haussmannization is much debated, but his goal was I want to do to Paris what Augustus did to Rome. Okay, no one says that about New York. The whole idea of the French concept of patrimoine, okay, of a civic sense of national treasure. I mean, we have that in terms of preservation, but of an inherited sense of values that we pass on and we protect, doesn't exist here in the same way. Now, here is that's the cultural nexus of Paris. Here's the cultural nexus of New York City, which is Lincoln Center. Here is, so in front of the Place de l'Opéra, you shoot down to the Madeleine, and then you go to the Place de la Concorde, and people know Paris, right? here is what's opposite Lincoln Center, okay? So the private sector has taken over and built an eyesore in front of it, okay? And just let's look. I photographed this from my gym. Now, the fact that my gym is overlooking the Cultural Center of New York says something in itself, but you'll see the Vivian Beaumont over there and Juilliard, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just one anonymous eyesore after another. And this is our cultural jewel, okay? Now, who's accountable? This is the old Penn Station. Who tore this down? Do we know? We don't know, okay? Who built the new Penn Station? Do we know? We don't know, okay? I think we should know, okay? I think there should be accountability, okay? Now, I've noticed a wonderful thing. Corporations that build bad buildings go out of business, okay? So this is now the MetLife building, which is doing okay. It was the Pan Am building. Where is Pan Am today, okay? All right, horrible building. Okay, to the right, the GM building. How are they faring? To the left, Gulf and Western, now no longer in existence, okay? Avon, not doing so well, okay? 9 West 57th. I'd like to point out that we're in the New York Times building. It's interesting to me as I was thinking about this that buildings, corporations that are in the public eye, the Daily News, Hearst, Bloomberg, the New York Times, they build better buildings because people are watching. But the anonymous corporations tend to build a lot of bad buildings. So the corporate sector is going to save us. What about the civic sector? This eyesore, which is at Mount Sinai Hospital, and sticks up like a sore thumb over Central Park, belongs to Mount Sinai Hospital, and some of the worst buildings in the city are built by community organizations. So, and then lastly, and my time is very short, let's turn to the private sector, okay? So here we have what's going up on Central Park South, which is, I looked at it closely, it's an ugly building, okay? And this is what's going to go up next to it. And there are, and this I want to show you by law in France, the name of the architect must go on the building. So so what I think that we should do, and this is what I want to end on very quickly, is that there is no seat at the table for aesthetics in the building of private buildings. I think we should have a design review for buildings. We should start with a blank page. We should decide on scale, size, but I think a design review for private buildings is better than no design review at all. There'll be a lot of debate inside that design review commission, but some debate is better than people being able to say, I have this space and I can build it as of right. There are ways of doing this. We can use social pressure. We should name names. The developer should be known. The people who financed it should be known. The name of the architect should be known. We can put an app on an iPhone that says, when you walk past, who built this? It should be publicized. We should reward developers for building good buildings. We should celebrate them, and we should make sure and bring social pressure through the media, through technology, through the laws on the developers, the financiers, and the architects to improve the private space. Thank you very much.